Ooh, okay, now it's your turn, Beller. You're gonna have quite a surprise.
引きこもり生活で昼夜が逆転してやがるに違いねえ。
Complaining all the way, Beller strolled off into the rain. Almost immediately, he was swallowed up by the darkness of the rose garden and passed out of sight. And then, Kirie could be seen coming out from the darkness of the rose garden. Her right hand held a gun, her left an umbrella. Her inner pocket contained the master key ring she had stolen from Bodhi. Her right pocket had a handful of bullets. Her left held a knife she had taken from the kitchen. She was a carefully and perfectly outfitted murderer, that's for sure. Another bolt of lightning struck down from the swirling skies. It lit up only half of Kirie's face. So, Kirie, are you gonna have a little bit of discussion with the Beller, or you're just gonna cut to the chase? And cut Beller's throat at that too. Her cheek was still covered with Jessica's blood. Under the eaves, Kirie folded up her umbrella, smiled, and spoke to Noby.
ただいま、みんな。
Rudolph could be seen under the eaves of the chapel. He had hidden his gun in the nearby shadows and was now smoking a cigarette.
あの単細胞を騙すなんて簡単なもんさ。うまくいかなきゃそれだけの話だぜ。
He glanced over at the place, yet stowed his gun. The cigarette smoke began to pleasantly cloud his mind. Beller isn't a kid anymore. He's an adult who can choose his path through life as he pleases. When animals grow up, it's normal for them to leave their group and go on a journey. Humans are the only ones that keep treating them like kids, even after they get big.
こんなことならお前に土下座なんかするんじゃなかったな。お前を連れ戻して後悔してるぜ。
Yeah, you know. At least I can see some humanity in Rudolph here, that's for sure. Not only in how he dealt with George, but also, you know, having regret for better coming here in the first place. Because that's something you definitely don't want for your son. But here you are. He puffed out all those words, along with the smoke. When better came, he didn't intend to voice those regrets of his. Rudolph had already determined to play the part of the evil murderer who kills for money. I mean, you know, in the past, we discussed about this, about what Beller confessed in episode 4, and how Rudolph came to Beller, even on his knees, to beg Beller to come back to the family. There were two options at that point for me to think. Either Rudolph truly loved Beller as his son and wanted him to come back to the family because he loved him. Or there was the other option that I thought at the time that maybe Beatrice, in this case Yasda, had some hand in threatening Rudolph even before the family incident, in having Beller come back, cause I don't know, like maybe if you bring Beller to the family yet again, you'll be compensated for it with Mura and stuff like that. That was a random thought that I had in mind, because I don't know. I guess I was having some doubts, but no. I decided in the end that Rudolph wanted Beller to come back to the family because he did love him, despite being this macho man that is hiding his feelings and has his pride and such. But no, he was a father in the end. And it does show over here that I mean, he showed it plenty throughout this entire incident that he didn't want Beller to be involved in all this. And, well, to the point of having Kirie promise that she would accept Beller as her son if he were to join the party of Bonnie and Clyde. I mean, you Rudolph probably worry like a lot about this because you know that part of you believes that Beller is not gonna accept this whole thing. I mean, what you're truly gonna expect Beller to just easily go with whatever stuff you're gonna say to him? Like whether we're talking about the truth, we are just gonna try to hide the death somehow? Yeah, Beller is not gonna be the type to easily accept this kind of thing. And chances are very high that he's gonna refuse what is going on right over here. So, yeah, sorry, Rudolph. At the moment, he heard the sound of someone stepping on gravel. He looked up, thinking that Beller had finally arrived, but the sound had come from the direction opposite the mansion. Yeah, here's a little bit of surprise for you, Rudolph.
うちの人
姉貴生きてたのか
残念生きてたわよお会いに行くねでもうちの人はダメだったわよくも
With a face obscured by anger and tears, Eva slowly walked closer, her gun raised. Her husband had been killed right in front of her. She probably wouldn't even hesitate. Realizing that a gun, quivering with anger, was pointed right at his chest, Rudolph backed away. As he pretended to back away, he approached the gun he had hidden in the shadows.
落ち着けよ姉貴その銃を下ろせって俺だってあんなことを望んだわけじゃない突然のことで俺にもどうしようもなかったんだ
いい加減なことを言わないで
As Eva had said, it really had been a half-baked, pointless thing to say. Rudolph would have said anything if he thought he could calm Eva's emotions before she pulled the trigger, which she looked capable of doing at any moment now. Then Rudolph's foot came in contact with his gun.
とにかく話をしようもうじきジョージ君も来るはずだいやジョージ君ここだここだ
Rudolph waved, as though George was coming from behind Eva. Let Eva's emotion turn in that direction. That idiot. My simple big sister has always been a sucker. Shide! Gunfire. Then, a bit later, the sound of something heavier than rain, drip dropping onto the cobblestone floor.
ルドルフあんたの小細工なんて昔からお見通しよ
The bullet Eva fired had struck Rudolph square in the chest. The bullet Rudolph fired had missed, landing near Eva's feet.
やっぱこの銃狙いが下にずれてるぜ
He dropped the gun into a puddle with a splash, staggered backwards, and leaned against the wall of the chapel.
ちげえな悪党の弾は外れるってのが西部劇のお約束じゃねえか
Eva dashed up to him, kicked away the gun that had fallen into a puddle, and grabbed Rudolph by the collar.
ジョージはジョージはどこジョージは殺させないわよ
悪いな兄貴もうやっちま 向こうの茂みでやった。行けよ。すぐわかる。
ルドルフ、
Eva, who said she had always been able to see through her little brother's tricks, also knew that Rudolph's final words, as his consciousness began to fade from having been shot, were not alive.
よくもジョージを、ジョージを。
They showcased and bounced off this cobblestone. The furious gun barrel was pressed against Rudolph's forehead.
撃てよ。それくらいで気は晴れねえだろうが。
The bolt of lightning turned even white. However, all the chapel was stained with blood red. A red splash like a crushed tomato covered the wall behind Rudolph's head. Then, leaving a red trail behind him, Rudolph slid down the wall, sat on the ground, and fell over.
ジョージ、ジョージ、ジョージ。
Eva dashed off towards the bushes. She found George's corpse almost immediately, screamed, and broke down sobbing. Rudolph's bloody corpse was exposed to the rain that ran down off the eaves. His eyes were still wide open. A ragged, fist-sized hole had been torn open at the back of his head, exposing its contents to the open air. Inside was minced flesh and bright red jelly. That goop, which looked like someone had mixed it up with a spoon, dripped from his eyes, nose, ears, mouth, and a hole in his head.
お父さん、お父さん。
Angie clutched at her head, sobbing and moaning. Her father had dirtied his hands with murder over money, and on top of that, he had faced such a cruel end, and Angie had been forced to see his corpse. It was hard to imagine a more painful experience for her daughter to go through. I'm totally fed up with this. It's completely meaningless.
ベルンカステルさん、いるんでしょう、どこかに。もうこのゲームをやめてください。何の意味もない。
As if in answer to that yell, a black shadow appeared a few seats in front of them. Or perhaps she had been sitting there the whole time. Maybe we just couldn't see her until we realized she was there. It was, without doubt, to the back of Ben Castell's head.
ベルンカステルさん。
うるさいわよ。静かに鑑賞できないの？
The witch turned around with bored eyes, as though the two who were yelling were the strange ones.
もうやめてください。この世界が10月4日から5日の間の閉ざされた猫箱の世界だということは私たちも理解しています。
The games are like messages, or maybe more like a roundabout love letter, conveying a single message over several games. But we already understand. We know that endless tales can seep out of the sealed 2-day cat box. And beyond that, I even know the culprit and the motive. And that has already been revealed. It has nothing to do with this game.
猫箱の物語という回を私たちは2人とも得ているんです。だからこれ以上このようなゲームを繰り返す理由はないはずです。もしこれがあなたと私たちのゲームだというなら、私たちはすでに答えを得ている。ゲームは終了していいはずです。
うっさいわよ、あんた。
Oh, hey there, Lambda Delta. Long time no see.
静かにしろってベルンが言ってんでしょ。
Another show appeared in the next seat over, turned around, and scolded a pair.
意味ならあるわよ。 見てればわかるわ。
ゲームマスターはあなたですか？
違うわよ。
では誰が？まさかクレルが？
見ていればわかるわ。すぐにね。もう惨劇もクライマックスだわ。生き残るのはどっちかしら。
Ben Costello isn't the game master? And then who is? A little bit of a surprise to hear that Ben Costello is not the game master in this case, but could Claire have created his crew tail? Or are there even more witches playing around with this cat box? In the guest house, Rose wrapped in silence. And more than likely, Maria is like the only one left in here, all alone. There were no sounds, no trace of anyone's presence, no breathing from anyone alive. There wasn't anything to be heard anymore. If there was a sound, then that would be the only sound of murderers' feet stepping across the floor. Kiria slowly passed through the lounge. In her right hand was a gun. In her left hand was a knife. The knife was stained with blood, and some was still dripping from the tip, leaving behind red tracks like a demon's footprints. Her hands were filled with tools of murder, so she wasn't capable of doing anything but murder. What, did we actually just skip through Balor's murder? No discussing between you two, no nothing, I guess. So, okay. In that sense, at this moment, she was nothing more than a pure and adulterated murderer. The murderer reached the front door, and then finally, she looked down at her bloodstained hands. The hands that carried the tools of death with which she had performed her cruel massacre. At last, the murderer realized that she couldn't even open the door like this, and threw away the knife in her left hand. Then, she placed her hand on the door, turned around calmly, and spoke.
ごめんね、みんな。でも安心してね。数日後、新聞は不幸な事故を掲載するわ。そしてあなたたちは、事故の瞬間まで何も知らずに楽しく過ごしていたに違いないと、新聞もニュースも噂する人々も言うでしょうね。
I wonder if the knife is gonna play a huge part. Like, a little bit soon. I do have to wonder about that.
それはつまり、あなたたちは10月5日の24時まで楽しく過ごしていたということ。
So said the one who had stained the guest house red.
この時間には、いとこ同士で楽しくはしゃいで夜更かしをしている。そして朝が早い使用人の人は高いびき。遅番の人は日誌でも書いて、あるいはほっと一息を入れてる頃でしょうね。そういうことなの。ここでこうしていると、いとこ部屋での大はしゃぎが聞こえてくるようだわ。
Humans outside the cat box will probably never understand what Kitty was saying. Only she, shut inside the cat box of the explosion accident, could understand the true meaning of her words. Outside, the rain poured down heavily. Kitty almost picked up an umbrella, but then stopped suddenly, as if she'd just thought of something. Then she started walking out into the rain, not caring at all whether she got wet or not. Did the murderer not want an umbrella to get in the way of her pointing her gun? Or was she hoping that the rain could act as a shower to get the blood off her? Kirie stopped, as though something unexpected had caught her attention. However, this time, it was no whim of hers.
うちの人をよくも殺したわね。
あら、エヴァ姉さん、ショックだわ。あの距離で外してたなんて。
私も驚いてる。まさか自分が生きてたなんてね。
礼拝堂裏の地下階段から戻ってきたの？なら、
ええ、礼拝堂の前でルドルフにも会ったわ。
元気そうだった？
ええ、兄弟で久しぶり。仲良く語り合ったわ。
そう、目立ちたがり屋なのにここ一番で頼りない人ね。やっぱりあの人は私がいないとダメなのね。
Kirie had already realized that Rudolph had been killed. However, no trace of urgency or panic rose to her face. Okay. Like, remember that I was saying, since Rudolph made Kirie a promise in regards to Valor, something told me that Kirie would have killed Rudolph anyway. A part of me thinks that. And right here she has like no... She feels absolutely nothing that her husband, of all people, had died too. What is it that you do care about in life, Kirie? In that case. She just closed her eyes with her usual unconcerned expression. And when she opened them again, she had regained her composed smile.
ありがとう。感謝する。これで本当に私が全てを独り占めね。
その服の血は何？あんたゲストハウスから出てきたわね。まさか。
ええ、そうよ。今私殺人事件の真っ最中なの。
殺したの？みんなマリアちゃんまで？
生かして朝を迎える理由がないわ。朝になれば騒ぎになって面倒になる。無線で島の外に連絡したり助けを求めたりするかもしれない。だからこれが極めてベストなの。チェス盤をひっくり返して考えればね。
人でなし！金に目がくらんで人の命を奪うなんて！
あなただってうまいことやったわ。
あれは事故よ。殺すつもりなんてなかった。あんたとは違うの。
違わないわよ。もし銃の暴発が起こらなければあなたたちはいつまでも口論と組合を続けていたわ。そうすればあなたたちも数手遅れで私と同じ答えに行き着いたは
私は殺人鬼じゃないわ。
ず。いいえ、なり損ねただけの立派な殺人鬼よ。エヴァ姉さんは暴発に救われただけ。あの幸運がなければ、そして私があなたより先に実行に移さなければ、あなたが私の役をやっていた。それだけはあなたがいくら否定しようとも変わらない異なる未来の真実なの。
わけのわからないこと言わないで。
On the inside, Eva understood. Back then, she'd probably have been saved by that coincidental misfire. If the argument had continued much longer, she would surely have grown a desire to kill Kraus and the others. and might even have carried it out. She simply could not deny the existence of that demon deep within her heart. Only the theater goers knew. They knew that she could become a killer in another world. And Kirie, who did not have the theater going ability, knew this fact also. Apparently, she really was an extraordinary person. What can I say? So, for some time, Eva could only grind her teeth in silence, still pointing her gun.
私にはわからないわ。あなたも自分のお腹を痛めて子を産んだ経験を持つ母のはず。命の尊さを知らないわけがない。そのあなたがどうしてこれだけのことができるの？
Alright. Let me see what the answer is gonna be to this one.
子供なんて勝手にできるわ。
そういう話じゃないでしょ。
子は貸せないって言うわよね。
それが何？
子は夫をつなぎ止めておくためのかすがいなの。ルドルフさんに私のことを認めさせ、あの女から彼を取り戻すためのかすがいだった。でもルドルフさんはあなたが殺したわ。だったらわかるでしょ。
So, I guess by that logic, that means that you don't give a fuck about Angie as well, huh? Okay. You just see it as a tool to bind you to Rudolph more than it already did. Alright.
わかるってどういう意味？
私はもう誰かの妻でもないし母のつもりもないということよ。私は私、キリエ。ルドルフさんが死んだ今、後ろ宮でさえないわ。私は私の得になるように生きる。
そうね。ルドルフは死んで、あんたは妻ではなくなったかもしれない。で、エンジェちゃんがいるでしょ。あんたはまだ母であり続けるはずよ。
言ったでしょ、かすがいって。ルドルフさんがいなくなった今、エンジェは私にとって必要なものじゃないの。
あんた、それが母親が子に対して言うことなの
I mean, you also gotta think this. Here we have Kirie, and especially here we have Eva. The one who actually survived in Angie's future, and who Angie stayed with. Yeah, you have Kirie over here being a monster who sees Angie as nothing. But here's Eva who is, like, contradicting that. And yet, Angie was the one who would suffer and think that Eva was the one responsible for this. Go figure, if we were to go with what this game is telling us.
エヴァ姉さん、やめましょうよ。綺麗事は。
綺麗事？
私たちって子供が欲しくて結婚したの？違うでしょ。好きな男と一緒に暮らしたいから結婚したんでしょ。そして結婚したんならその男を一生手放したくないと思うでしょ。子供はそのための武器じゃない。
そんなこと考えて子供作ったりなんかしないわよ。
そんなこと考えて子供を作ることもできるのよ。
Kirie kept on speaking emotionlessly, ignoring the fallen rain. Her relaxed smile did not falter for an instant.
エンジェなんてルドルフさんを縛り付けるためのただの鎖、あるいは家族ごっこをするための子供の役という名の駒。私にとってエンジェはルドルフさんの前で良き母を演じるときに必要な駒なだけよ。
ジェちゃんの前で言える？
さすがに気の毒だから本人には言わないわ。悪いお母さんを許してねとでも書いて姿をくらますつもり。ローザさんとマリアちゃんを見ればわかるでしょ。ルドルフさんがいない今、エンジェなんて私を縛る鎖なだけ。私は元のたった一人の切り絵に戻り、のんびりと余生を楽しむつもりよ。新しい挑戦、新しい人生、ひょっとしたら新しい恋もあるかもね。
それでも人間なの。それでもエンジェちゃんの母なの。
エンジェなんかしたことじゃないわよ。あんなクソガキ、可愛いと思ったことなんて一度だってないわよ。
あんたって人は。
あなただってもう家族ごっこから解放されたでしょ。謳歌しましょうよ、女の自由を。感謝してほしいわ。ジョージ君も殺してあげたんだ。
人でなしが
The two yells and the sound of gunfire thundered across the dark rose garden. Slowly, Eva fell backwards. Then she landed in a puddle, scattering countless drops of water. Across from her, Kiria spun around as though dancing. Beautiful black rose petals scattered around her. They were dark red rose petals. As these rose petals sprayed from her throat, she spun around in a circle and slowly crumpled. Then she fell to the ground, sending muddy water flying. The two women had both fired their guns and fallen. However, when the thunder roared, it was only Eva who sat back up. Alright, well, it was as I expected, that Eva would end up being the sole survivor of this. Eva hadn't been shot. Kiria's intensity had made her fall backwards, but the bullet had once again only grazed her. Eva cursed her good luck. Why couldn't this luck have saved her husband or her son?
エンジェちゃんのため、そこで死になさい。あんたは爆発事故で死ぬ。死ぬ直前の瞬間まで置いてきた娘のことを心配していた。そう刻むわ、猫箱の蓋の上にね。
When Kiria heard this, blood dripped from her grinning mouth, and she seemed to say something in response. However, her voice came out only as globs of blood from the hole in her throat, not words.
こんなの嘘よ、エンジェ、どうか落ち着いて。これはゲームです。あれがあなたのお母さんの本心のわけがない。こんなのゲームマスターがキリエおばさんの駒に言わせてるだけに過ぎません。
But saying that did nothing to calm Angie's sobs. I don't blame her. Even if she knows it's just a game, she's been forced to see not only her mother's death, but also her mother announcing that she was the culprit of a mass murder, who'd even love her daughter. Anyone would sob after hearing that. Yeah, quite a game that had the most, maximum impact on Angie, that's for sure.
ベルーンカステルさん、もういい加減にしてください。
Alright, well, I guess the game is now over. I guess now it's time for us to discuss some stuff here.
誰がゲームマスターだろうと知ったことじゃない。今すぐこの無意味なゲームを終わりにしてください。
When Leon yelled this, the theater suddenly went pitch black, swathed in darkness. However, that wasn't enough to shock Leon. Leon continued to yell Ben Costello's name into the darkness, telling the witch to stop this game. Then, a single beam of light shone down upon the stage. There was Claire, the one who had appeared for just a second right before this cruel game began.
フレル、やはりこれはあなたがゲームマスターだったのですか。わからない。どうして。
Claire didn't answer. In fact, it looked as though she hadn't even heard. Her eyes were blank, and you couldn't tell what she was looking at. In fact, she was even forgetting to blink. She looked just like a doll. Then, another beam of light lit up the side of the stage. Under the light stood Ben Costello. At the same time, though there appeared to be no one in the audience, a large applause rang out. Ben Costello raised her right hand in response to the applause. She kept doing so until the applause died down.
ベルーンカステルさん、やはりあなたがこのゲームのマスターなんですか。
リオン、私はゲームマスターじゃないと何度言えばわかるの。
ではフレルだというのですか。そんなはずはない。
ええ、そんなはずはもちろんないよ。だってクレルは死んだもの。私たちはその葬儀に立ち会ったはずよ。忘れた？ではそこに立っている彼女は一体。死体よ、剥製じゃないよ。だからもちろん中身がある。
So, from what I'm getting out of this is that you're basically going against Claire's wishes before she died. That you are actually gonna tell us of the quote-unquote events. That you're gonna tell us, that you're gonna show us the events of those 2 years that Claire didn't want to. Before being confronted by Will with the illusions.
綺麗な姿で隠しているけれど、内側にはドロドロの腹渡が詰まってる。
When Costello raised her right hand, a light fell on it, and a black shining sight appeared there. It was a cold, merciless, and cruel object, like something a classic Grim Reaper might hold.
何をする気ですか。
生きてはそのあがきをめでる。死んでは綿をかき出してめでる。物語を二度楽しめるのよ。それが感激の魔女というもの。
Ben Costello pressed the blade of her Reaper's scythe against Claire's stomach, and then slowly slid it across. Then, along the line she traced, Claire's dress was sliced open. It was now clear that the scythe she held was not a fake one for theatrical use. And it was clear just what she planned to do next that made her cruel smile so fitting.
エンジェ、私の声が聞こえる？
聞こえてるわ。私をクズ肉にしたり 本を読ませてみたり、今度は何？この最悪の物語を見せつけて私を苦しめるわけね。楽しい？ええ、楽しいでしょうね。私も楽しませてもらったわよ。これぐらいで私が音を上げると思った？あんたの悪趣味なゲームにこれ以上泣き叫んでなんかやるもんですか？
あんたも、そしてリオンも、二人とも勘違いをしているわ。私はゲームマスターなんかじゃない。この物語も私が紡いだものなんかじゃない。
じゃあそこのドレスの女がゲームマスター？いいえ、違います。そんなはずはないんです。ならゲームマスターは誰です？誰がこの悪趣味な物語を紡いでいるんですか？
まだわからないの？
何がわからないというのよ。
エンジェル、あなたはわずかな奇跡に全てをかけて身を投げ出してみせたわ。私はその勇気に敬意を表して1986年10月4日からの2日間の世界に招いてあげた。あなたの目的は何だった？家族を連れ戻すこと。それはとても難しいことで、奇跡に愛されなければ到底ありえないことだった。それは覚悟していたわね。
覚悟の上よ。そして私はまだお兄ちゃんもお母さんもお父さんも諦めていない。
諦めないのは勝手。それはあなたのゲームだもの。私は応援しないし干渉もしない。あなたという駒を使ったゲームを私はすでに十分楽しんだし、あなたはもう私にとって用のない存在。
せいせいするわね。ならどうして私はここにいるの？招待したのはあんたじゃないの。
そうよ。招待したのは私の駒としてひとときを楽しませてくれた。そのお礼にね。
お礼？魔女式のってわけね。楽しませてもらったわよ、この下道が。よくもお父さんやお母さんをこんなゲームに。
エンジェ、あなたは家族を連れ戻すことを願った。でももう一つ願っていたわ。覚えてる？
覚えてないわよ。
あの日何があったかを知ることよ。
What happened on Genjimon on October 4th and 5th, 1986? Did Nanji leave on her journey with Amakusa because she longed to answer that question?
そうだったわね。それが何？そんなバカな。
Leon realized what Berncastel was getting at. Alright, well, you showed us this game. So I assume that you're gonna tell us that this is actually what happened. Well, I do need a lot of convincing as well, so let's see if you can convince me, Berncastel. And because of that, Leon was too shocked to speak. The Game Master isn't Berncastel or Claire. Then who is it? That's the wrong question. There is no Game Master. That could mean only one thing.
エンジェ、まだわからないの？
何がよ。
これが真実なのよ。1986年10月4日からの2日間の猫箱の中身よ。この後、エヴァはクワドリアンで爆発を逃れて生き残るよ。
I see. So the reason you're not seeing yourself as a game master in this case is because, well, technically this isn't a game. This would be the truth. So even if you are the one to display this entire thing to Angie, technically you are not the game master. Technicalities. You're still defiling the corpse of Yasuda, both figuratively and literally at this point.
そして猫箱の中身を欲するあなたに最後の瞬間まで沈黙を貫くことで、この真実を永遠に猫箱に閉ざした。
何を言ってるの？
エヴァ一人が生還する。いくら警察が事故だと断定しても世間は納得しようとしなかったわ。そして亡き夫に代わり会社を切り盛りしようと張り切れば張り切るほどに敵を作り、彼女が壮大な陰謀の女王であるかのようなイメージを作り上げていった。彼女は真実を語りたかったでしょうね。語ったとて証拠もなく誰も信じない真実を。エヴァの心は次第に壊れていった。あなたもエヴァを拒絶し、エヴァもあなたを拒絶するようになった。歪み切った最後の肉親同士の関係。愛息子の面影をあなたに重ねては苦悩し、ますます歪んで壊れて。
Then, a strange message bottle was picked up and became a topic of conversation. It contained a bizarre story, one which told of a mysterious serial murder related to the Golden Rock and Chiru. Evan rejected the explosion accident theory and started to think up conspiracy theories. Some of those theories named Eva as the culprit, which tormented her even more. But Eva used even that to create a cat box. And until the moment of her death, she protected it. She protected the lock that held the cat box shut. So, no human would ever reach the truth inside the cat box. Not unless the witches who crossed the sea of fragments opened the lock.
これが真実よ。
嘘よ、嘘よ、嘘よ。これが本当に真実だって言うなら言えるはずだわ。赤き真実で言えるわけない、言えるわけがないのよ。エンジェ、エンジェ、落ち着いて。
Angie writhed with such strength that the chains on her arms and legs looked like they might snap. All over her body, a red gooey liquid started to seep out. It was as though cracks had opened up all over her, and blood was leaking out of all of them.
何？赤き真実ではっきり宣言してあげた方がいいの？なら言ってあげるわ。赤、これはすべて真実。
Angie's scream covered up Baron's red truth.
バカな子。私にそれを言わせなければ猫箱の中に封じ込めておけたのに。でもあなたはそう言うわよね。分かってたわ、もちろん。そしてその絶叫に歪む顔が見たかった。100年は思い出すだけで笑えるような素敵な形相だったわよ。戻りなさい、クズ肉に。
Nah. Not quite convinced, to be quite honest. Not quite convinced. As Angie held her head and screamed, the blood dripping from her finally grew so thick that it started scattering all over the place. Then, bit by bit, her body began to melt. No, to fall apart. Then, bits of her began to pile up on the chair. until she was nothing but a pile of guts and scraps.
真実ってそんなにも尊いものなの？バカらしい、愚かしい。